Hello and welcome back to another episode of Observation Conversations. My name is Reid.
And I'm Jonathan.
And today we have a myriad of different topics, which we are compiling into what may or may not become a future segment called Rapid Fire Randomness.
Yes.
We have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about, and I think we should just jump right in to discussion on social media and primarily the death of Twitter.
Yes, the slow, painful death of Twitter, if I may say.
Yes, the agonizingly drawn out, slow death, torture, whatever.
It has been difficult to watch.
It's bad.
It has been very difficult to watch. And, of course, what was the fate of Twitter was actually one of the few running themes we had in our short-lived Season 2 last year was what was going to happen with Twitter. Those were still the early days of Elon's interest in buying Twitter. And, of course, late last year, he actually was successful. The sale did go through. He purchased Twitter to become his latest personal plaything.
Surprisingly unwillingly, too.
Yes.
He somehow backed his way into a contract that he didn't want to be in, and then was forced to buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's been a shit show ever since.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, for the entirety of Twitter's existence, it has been certainly one of the leading, not just social media apps, but just media marketplaces of ideas
News
that has existed.
Apps,
absolutely.
Honestly.
News apps, just in general. Twitter was, throughout the 2010s, the place where newsmakers, celebrities, people of influence gathered to share their thoughts, and millions of people either cheered them on or denounced them from the sidelines. It was quite literally the digital town square, and I think that was kind of the beautiful thing about it. It was far from perfect, God knows, but it was a beautiful idea, and I think it was wonderfully successful at empowering ordinary people to have their voices be heard on this huge platform, right alongside presidents and prime ministers and pop stars and all these different people, and mega corporations as well. You know, my tweet is the same size as a tweet from McDonald's or some massive corporation.
But your ratio is much less.
Yes. Well, that is true. That is true. But I think it was wonderfully empowering. It was a wonderfully empowering thing when Twitter was at its height. But of course,
not without controversy too.
No, of course.
It was kind of the digital town square, but a lot of people took issue with how they decided to censor certain posts or certain people, especially when they finally removed Donald Trump from Twitter.
Yes.
People were saying, "Hey, we have a right to free speech," but Twitter is a privately owned company. It's a private space. When you create an account, you agree to their terms and conditions.
Oh, exactly.
And that was a big reason why Elon wanted to buy Twitter, because he was like, I'm going to make it a true free speech haven. And then a bunch of Nazis showed up. And then he recently made it so certain language around LGBTQ ideas will get you banned, and using the word cis is now considered a slur.
Yes, well,
so
yes, no, I mean,
hypocrite and bigot.
Yes, well, and that's the other side of what I was saying. I think that Twitter in its heyday was a net positive thing that existed in the world, but it wasn't perfect. And of course, one of its greatest flaws, at least from the perspective of the people who ran Twitter, was that it had always been very bad at actually making money. Twitter's books have never been rosy. It has. I think there was a very brief period of time where they actually were in the black and they actually were turning a slight profit in like 2020, 2021. But before that and after that, it's been very much like Netflix, where it's like a loss leader type thing. I mean, they're not actually making a ton of money, but there is enough inflow of capital through advertising that it made it sustainable in the end. Yeah. And of course, a lot of powerful people were very invested in its continued health and existence. But very bad at making money. And the number one way one of the very few ways, other than the Twitter Blue subscription service, that they do make money is through selling ads. And I think that people forget that that's why Twitter, while they do allow a lot, and there is so much that you can say without consequence on Twitter, but at the end of the day, when you have these comments being made, racist comments, sexist comments, homophobic comments, hate speech being spread, obviously a figure like Donald Trump who just pumps out vitriol nonstop, Twitter has to take that very seriously, not just because it's bad and wrong, but because it's going to cost them money if advertisers see that this is no longer a safe place to put ads for our products alongside literal neo-Nazis posting garbage.
I think that, and also it's possible that they didn't want to be held accountable with a potential lawsuit for helping Donald Trump incite a coup.
Exactly, which he did, very much so. I mean, yeah. Donald Trump for years was Twitter's most famous power user. Now, of course, it's Elon. But the two are, in my mind, very much two sides of the same coin. And how they used Twitter, how they relied on Twitter, how they became almost synonymous with Twitter. And so, in my opinion, I don't think Twitter had a choice in January, February 2021 of banning Donald Trump. I think for the sake and for the future of their platform, I think they had to. And I think that was the right choice to make. And as we saw, Trump started up his own Truth Social. And now, even though he's been unbanned, he's not come back. He's staying over there. And so, honestly, that's fine. I think we're all better for it. Exactly. Because the damage that man managed to do with that Twitter account over the course of his first campaign for president and throughout being president and then running for re-election is almost incalculable. The poison, the misinformation that he spread, it's simply put, from the perspective of the people who ran Twitter, they had to do something. I mean, they just couldn't let it go on as if nothing had changed. Even if he was the president of the United States. And so, but anyway, of course, last year, Elon, now the current Twitter's most famous power user, expressed an interest in buying it because, of course, this is what he always does. He doesn't actually. I know this is a controversial.
He's not a creator or an inventor.
No, he's a marketer. He's a salesman. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a salesman. He's always been very good at being the face of things. And so, of course, you go back, you look at PayPal. He got bored with that. He came over to the States. He does Tesla. He gets bored with that, and that now has a lot of problems with
and
Tesla.
Does Tesla, I should clarify, he ousted the original founder and took over the company. He didn't invent the electric car.
Not at all. Not even close.
SpaceX is one of the few companies that he actually made.
Yes.
But it was not his idea for the relanding the rockets.
Absolutely.
It was just the source of capital.
Exactly. Once again, he's a great salesman, a great marketer. We believe that he's behind all these things because he's been the face of them for so many years. But the fact of the matter is that he didn't actually invent or create or come up with any of this stuff. But anyway, he moves to Tesla from PayPal. And now Tesla's got a lot of problems. The AI self-driving thing doesn't work. It's crashing into the sides of tunnels, and cars are stopping in the middle of active freeways. So that's not good. And also the batteries catch on fire sometimes. And the workers in the factories want to unionize as well. And
the workers in the factories catch on fire sometimes.
Yeah, they also that's why they want to unionize, because they also catch on fire. So the batteries catch on fire, the cars stop in the middle of the road. It's that now that has a lot of problems. And of course, now all the giant car makers are now also making their own electric cars, Toyota and Honda, and pretty much every major car manufacturer.
Better too.
And cheaper, most importantly.
Yeah, better and cheaper, and cheaper. Without production pipeline issues.
Exactly. And so, of course, as he always does, he gets bored of that. Now he moves on to SpaceX. He talks about wanting to put human beings on Mars, establishing a Mars colony, and he is going to reinvigorate space travel in the West. And I will give him this. Even though I've always been deeply skeptical of the idea of commercial space travel taking precedence over government-run entities like NASA, I will say that I would say SpaceX has probably been his most successful venture overall in terms of what it has done over the time it has existed. Of course, I would still prefer to see NASA and civilian scientists taking the lead over this and not Elon Musk, the problematic billionaire. But considering that we seem to have this inexplicable refusal to properly fund NASA and actually expand our space-going ambitions again, I do appreciate the fact that he is picking up the slack of launching satellites and taking people to and from the International Space Station. Much better, especially with the war in Ukraine, it's much better to have it be SpaceX than what we used to have to do, which is get a ride from the Russians. That's obviously wouldn't work now from, Russian cosmodromes. And so
it's confusing too, because, NASA is paying SpaceX these contracts to use their rockets, and I guess that's that was only viable because SpaceX had developed these self-landing rockets.
Yes,
it would have cost way too much for NASA to develop those, but it's still NASA paying for it.
That's true.
And so there is kind of that, well, why don't we just move everything back to NASA and have it government owned if it's still government money and if it's still taxpayers.
Oh yeah, and the answer is that, or at least this is what I think the answer is that, of course, these government contracts are hugely lucrative. I mean, SpaceX is making a fortune off of them, but even with how expensive they are, it's still cheaper than actually building and maintaining
a new rocket.
Your own rockets, which is the thing, And so, yes, I agree with you. Honestly, I wish that NASA and, the government would just keep the money and do it themselves. But, of course, at the moment, no one seems very interested in fighting that fight. So, they give it to SpaceX. And of course, that all just kind of gets rolled up into the Department of Defense budget, which just grows and grows and grows every year. So, but that's SpaceX for you. But now, of course, you don't hear Elon Musk talking much about establishing a colony on Mars, because he even's gotten bored of that now. And then after that, even before we get to what happened with Twitter, he had the Boring Company. He wanted to revolutionize how we move around cities. He was going to establish these subterranean tunnel networks, which were going to replace highways, replace freeways, revolutionize the city. And I don't know if you saw this. There was one concept model that was built in Las Vegas from the Boring Company of what these tunnels would look like, and I cannot believe. I mean, I'll have to find a video and I'll have to play it here. But it's a single lane tunnel, right? It's a tunnel, just a tunnel with regular cars driving on it. Of course, in this case, it's all Teslas because it's all a Musk program.
Tesla's on a track.
Yes, literally.
They're not just driving. They're literally like hooked up to a track, to a rail.
Yes.
A single rail. They go about 30 miles an hour.
In a single lane tunnel.
Yeah, in a single lane tunnel, which is just a narrow concrete tube with no fire exits.
Exactly.
In cars that are known to catch on fire.
On fire. Exactly. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, again, just forget even the catching on fire bit. Imagine what a traffic jam would look like in one of these tunnels. I mean, again, this is a concept model, not connected to any actual working roads in one city. He wants to establish these in Boston, in LA, in San Francisco, in major cities across the country and eventually across the world, I'm sure. Imagine an LA traffic jam in one of these tunnels. It would be a nightmare.
That's kind of the whole point, was that using these hyperloops, one would require that you already own a Tesla. I'm pretty sure was the intended model.
Yeah.
But even if you didn't, it still plays on the reliance for cars.
Absolutely.
And it was revealed that, like, I read recently that I guess it was in some kind of biography that he was writing or an interview or something. He basically confirmed that his proposal for the Tesla Hyperloop thing was solely to disrupt LA plans of building a actual functional underground rail system.
Exactly.
And he was just like, no, I want to make it so people still need cars, so they'll continue buying Teslas.
Exactly.
So.
And again,
he invented the subway, but worse.
In every way.
Like only profitable for him, but also not profitable because it doesn't work. and hasn't been implemented and is a safety hazard.
Totally unworkable.
Because he's, a con man.
Yes.
And a fucking idiot.
Exactly. Absolutely. And again, dear viewer, I just ask you to imagine what an LA traffic jam. Imagine if the 405 became, for a portion of it, one of these boring company tunnels. Imagine the horror that would represent.
Imagine getting into a car accident in the tunnel. How do you clear that up?
You don't. I mean, because you can't go back. There's someone behind you. You can't go forward. There's someone ahead of you. You can't go off
you would
the
have
sides.
to wait for all the traffic in front of the accident to clear out. And then you send emergency vehicles back the other way, which, probably wouldn't fit. I don't think you could fit a fire truck in one of those tunnels or an ambulance.
No, not at all. Only Teslas.
Yeah. You couldn't even fit a tow truck to clear out the Teslas.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
it's
beyond nonsense.
On rail. He just invented the fucking subway.
Yeah, no,
I wasn't even driving. It was literally a Tesla train.
And also keep this in mind, viewers, the unbelievable expense of actually building these things. Right now, there is a lot of discussion about getting the Gateway project funded to build a new rail tunnel in between Manhattan and New Jersey, because the existing ones were damaged by Hurricane Sandy and they're like literally 120 years old. And they need to be replaced at some point.
We already have a rail system between New York and New Jersey.
Well,
it's called NJ Transit.
Well, of course you do, but they're saying that
it works just fine.
We need a new tunnel because the old ones are so old and they've gotten damaged from Hurricane Sandy, and that eventually we're going to have to shut down the tunnel to repair it unless we build a new tunnel alongside it, and that would be a catastrophe. And so we have to build this new tunnel. For decades they've been talking about building this new rail tunnel between Manhattan and the mainland. And they finally got a proposal off the ground, and it's going through Congress now to appropriate $20 billion to build this tunnel, because that's how expensive it's going to be to build a new rail tunnel between Manhattan and New Jersey. And that's just one rail tunnel, not even over a long distance between two places, right? And this is so important. It's now being described as a matter of national importance, because if the existing rail tunnels collapse, then of course all rail traffic between Manhattan and New Jersey will come to a standstill, and that's one of the most economically important corridors in the entire country.
Yeah.
And so that's one tunnel.
God forbid we use something like a bridge.
Yeah, well, it all has to tie in with the infrastructure around Penn Station and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But again, that's one tunnel between 2 points in one place, $20 billion.
Yeah.
Imagine
there
how
is a reason why government infrastructure contracts are so insanely expensive, which is because there's certain guidelines and regulations they have to abide by in terms of material, and how they pay workers, and it all adds up.
Environmental standards.
Yeah, so it's a lot more expensive than hiring a private company. Ideally, that would also mean it's higher quality and will last a longer time, but that's a little bit doubtful.
Oh,
but that plus inflation is why infrastructure is so expensive these days. But
I wouldn't even say it's doubtful that it'll be of worse quality, because again, the existing rail tunnel that exists is 120 years old and it's still functioning. So
yeah, but I'm just saying, sometimes you build a new bridge and then within 5 years it needs repair and you're like, stupid government.
It does happen,
but I guess it depends on the project.
No, absolutely. And in fact, because the reason why private companies are often able to make such competitive bids on contracts is because they are using cheaper materials, cheaper non-union labor. They can do things faster and cheaper, but I'm not saying it's always shoddy work, but there's a reason why it's always cheaper. They are very deliberately trying to rush things through to get onto the next contract.
Yeah,
because that's how they make the money. So whereas of course the government has no profit incentive, and so sure, things can take a while.
You would think that. But somehow, with the way they've tried to run the post office, or different organizations, they're like, oh, it needs a profit incentive. And it's that's not how government works.
Of course, it's awful.
That's a whole other topic. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Have an episode on
and
how
so
our government fails. But
yeah. But that's the thing though, is the government doesn't have a profit incentive. So yes, things can take a while, but they tend to last because the government doesn't want to spend another $20 billion to build the new thing again.
yeah.
But anyway, I'm just using that as an example to say that's one tunnel in one place. Elon Musk wants to build an entire tunnel network across major cities. And I mean, of course it was never going to happen. Of course it was doomed to fail. But I mean, just a totally ill-conceived idea from beginning to end. And then that brings us to Twitter. Elon Musk is a habitual Twitter user. He has been for years. And he decided that he wanted to make Twitter his newest plaything. He got bored of...
Hold on. I just had I want to go back to the Boring Company real quick.
Sure, yeah.
Did he invent, or like, did he like fund a company that invented a new type of boring machine? Or was it just a company that owned drill bores?
That I don't know. I'll have to look that up, but maybe.
Because I think that like he just started a company and then bought a bunch of drill bores.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then just started digging holes. I don't think there was anything like revolutionary about that. Yeah. He was just like, I'm gonna make some holes.
and again, literally, the only one he did build was a closed circuit in the literal desert outside of Las Vegas. So I mean, that's not exactly applicable to digging a tunnel underneath a major city. And so he got bored of PayPal, went over to Tesla, got bored of Tesla, went to SpaceX, got bored of SpaceX, went to the Boring Company, got bored of the Boring Company, brilliant wordplay, I know, and purchased Twitter because he likes Twitter. But of course, as soon as he actually did get Twitter and he did take over the reins of the company, he's had a very funny way of showing that he loves Twitter because he's been very steadily killing it ever since he bought it.
Yeah.
Anyone who's used Twitter in the past and who picks up Twitter now can tell you all the ways it's gotten worse. Of course, first and foremost, he got rid of the verification system, which, of course, was always controversial. There were always complaints about the seeming arbitrariness of who gets verified and who doesn't. But it was very important because it was a way to actually suss out who is a real, who's the real Barack Obama versus who's a parody account, who's the real representative of this company versus who's just some shithead making posts, so on and so forth, who's the real public figure versus just some imposter, and so he got rid of that and he introduced his own verification system where all you have to do is pay. Anybody can pay him whatever the fee is, $5 or whatever, and you can get a little check mark next to your name. It'll mean nothing. It'll signify nothing, but you'll have a check mark, and isn't that nice?
It'll signify that you paid $8 a month.
Literally.
Like that's.
Yes, many of the people who were banned got unbanned, including Donald J. Trump himself. Bots now run rampant. OnlyFans accounts now run rampant. The For You section, where you actually see all the tweets from people you follow that you actually want to see, is now garbage. Like 3/4 of what I see on my feed now are from people I don't follow, from people I don't know.
That's also a lot. Like Elon pushes his tweets to the top of everyone's For You.
All the time, doesn't he? All the time. Yeah, literally every day I check Twitter, I see at least one Elon post now, and they're always towards the top.
Yeah.
And so again, the OnlyFans accounts are running rampant, the bots are running rampant, the For You tab is not for you anymore because I'm mainly seeing tweets from people I don't follow, and it's just a disaster. I mean, it just feels like an all around grubbier, less rewarding place to be, and not to mention the quality of the discourse has gone down the tubes completely.
That's also ignoring like a lot of the outside changes that happened. Like, first of all, he bought Twitter and then tons of advertisers left the platform.
Yep, absolutely.
Which then tanked its profitability.
Yep.
And then he did the Twitter Blue thing.
Yes.
And people started impersonating different companies, including someone who created an account to look like was it Eli Lilly? Is that the name?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
The insulin producer, and they tweeted out insulin will now be free, and that tanked Eli Lilly's stock price. So this was like affecting the real world.
Absolutely.
And it was just a total mess. And then he was like, okay, I'm gonna introduce like different ranks. So you have like gray for corporations, blue for people, gold for government officials, whatever. There were a lot of celebrities that were like, I don't want to pay for verification. I don't really want to be verified anymore. And then Elon was like, okay, I'll just give it to you for free. And then other people were like, then wait, why am I still paying for it?
Why am I paying for it? Exactly.
Yeah.
And you raise a very good point, because also just the actual bedrock infrastructure of Twitter is worse now. There's a lot more app crashes now. Things don't load properly. There are periods of time now where Twitter will just be
all
down.
of your senior developers and infrastructure coders is a bad idea.
Exactly. Well, exactly.
Just the way he ran the company, not even like the decisions he made, but just it was a very inhumane way of running the company, where he would, instead of like telling people they were fired, they would show up to work and then not be able to scan into the front doors.
Yep.
Like, are you that much of a coward that you can't tell people they're fired? Like,
the answer is yes.
Grow some balls, please.
Exactly.
And like, if you're gonna trash your company, like, at least have the gall to tell your employees that you're doing it to them.
Literally, absolutely. And so the infrastructure is fucked now. I mean, the app will crash all the time. There will be periods of time where Twitter is just down, and there's nothing you can do. Of course, the most infamous example was Ron DeSantis's presidential campaign announcement, where instead of having a real rally like a normal politician would, where you get thousands of your most passionate place all cheering you on, and you can make a really great campaign ad out of that, he had the idea, I'm going to launch my presidential campaign in a Twitter Spaces conversation with Elon. And the funniest thing is that it didn't fail because it was a failure. It actually failed because it was an unbelievable success. Over 500,000 concurrent people tried tuning in to Ron DeSantis's campaign announcement, including myself. Even I was curious to see how this was going to go. Yeah. And it crashed within seconds. And there were minutes where literally no one had any idea what was going on. Like, the thing was down. You couldn't hear the people speaking. Eventually, they had to make a new Twitter space under one of the other people's Twitter accounts because the old one was fucked. And then less than half of the people that tried tuning in initially then retuned into that. It was an absolute shit show, which is just the funniest thing to me. First of all, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Let me just say that first and foremost. But also, the idea is that, like, literally, if only 50,000 people tuned in, it would have been fine. But the fact that people actually cared and people actually tried to tune in, and that's why it failed by succeeding, is a perfect metaphor for Elon's tenure at Twitter. I mean, it's just an unforced error after unforced error after unforced error. And that's now why you see such pent-up excitement for an actual competitor to Twitter, whether it be, of course, the most infamous example, or we'll see how infamous it ends up being, but Threads, which is essentially tied to Instagram. It's we called it an Instagram Plus earlier, essentially, but still nothing has quite filled that niche. But
even though nothing has filled that niche, he's still driving people towards finding a new platform.
Yes.
And he's driving people off of Twitter, because his newest model was, if you're a non-paid Twitter user, you can view I think it's 300 tweets a day. Mm-hmm. Was that 5 minutes of scrolling?
Yeah, your rate limit.
10, 15 minutes. You're limited. And then even if you're a paid user, you're limited to 1,000.
Yeah.
So even if you pay for it, you can only stay on the app for so long.
Yeah.
and then it forces you to go elsewhere.
Absolutely.
And it's why on earth would you think that's a good business idea? And I think it had to do with an infrastructure issue that he probably caused by firing some of his employees.
Absolutely.
And all of this garbage comes before him deciding to rebrand to X.
The latest outrage. So yes, we should talk about this. The latest outrage, the latest step in the slow and sad destruction of what was once, in my opinion, a great app, is now Twitter is no longer even Twitter. Twitter is now just X. And that's it. Nothing fancy. It's not some kind of fancy rebrand. It's literally just a black backdrop and then an X. and that's what it is. Why is it called X?
It's not even like, so I looked this up too because I heard that it could be that the X logo was stolen. It's not even like a designed logo. Apparently that's an actual like Unicode character.
Yeah.
Which I think is used in mathematics, but it's basically like a double uppercase X effectively. Like if you uppercase and uppercase X, you would get that kind of special character. So, I don't know what that means to Elon, but it's not like a logo design. It's not a brand. And also Twitter probably had one of the most recognizable brands in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, so much of that company's
X.
Yeah, I mean, so much of that company's market value when it was a publicly traded company was just from that logo and that name. That logo is instantly recognizable. Twitter, the name is instantly recognizable. You say that
you
know what
Twitter.
Means. Exactly. When you say Twitter, people know what that means. So much of the value of the company just comes from that identity and that branding. And of course, Elon, in his seemingly endless quest to destroy this great thing that he bought, he decided, you know what? All of those years of goodwill, even though that any goodwill that's left is totally misplaced now, but all of those years of goodwill that was built up and the brand recognition that was built up, I'm just going to destroy that. The value of this $40 billion plaything that I bought last year? I'm just going to destroy all of that. No, it's going to be X now. We're getting rid of the bird. We're getting rid of the name. It's just a black X, and it's named X. Why is it named X? Who the fuck knows?
Because Elon is a child and he thinks having a company named X would be cool.
Yeah,
even though he already has a company called SpaceX.
Exactly. I just don't know. And so
it was really fun. I remember seeing it when it first launched. They had changed the profile picture to X and changed the name to X, but he couldn't figure out how to change the handle. So it's still just at Twitter.
Oh God. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Like a few days.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine. Imagine buying. I mean, this alone is impossible. But imagine buying something for $40+ billion. Something whose so much of its value is built on just its name and its logo. All you have to do, it's already there. Just don't fuck with it. It's already there. And imagine saying, you know what? I'm going to do away with all that. It's just X now. I mean, it would be like buying Disney and renaming it to the cartoon store. Exactly. I mean, it literally, that's what it would be like. It would be like taking Disney, renaming it to the cartoon store. And it's just like, what the fuck are you thinking? It's not even
the cartoon store, though, because, like, X doesn't, like, Twitter had actual some meaning, because it's Twitter is, like, chatter, or, like, talking, there's, like, birds chirping, you have tweets, it's kind of this onomatopoeia brand. And it's like, a bunch of people talking like birds chirping. And it's like, that's the image. X doesn't mean anything. It's a letter.
Yeah.
Like, the one meaning it might have is, like, XXX, as in, like, not safe for kids. Or this is, like, a bad thing.
It's just porn now, which that's what it is now.
Porn,
it's
like,
literally just porn.
In old cartoons, they had, like, the jugs of moonshine with the XXX on it. And it's like, okay, X means, like, don't go, like, cancel out, bad. Like, it's not a good
doesn't mean anything.
Branding. And for the product, which is the platform and the ability to, like, share your thoughts online, it has no connection.
Yeah, it just
so it's not even like changing Disney to the cartoon store. It's like changing Disney to the number 3.
Right,
or like
literally
changing it to a picture of a doorknob. Like,
right.
There's no correlation.
Yeah, it's just an absolute disaster. And in that way, it's almost fitting that tweets are now, I guess, referred to as X's, because I desperately want to break up with this app.
I was going to ask, is that what they're
I have no idea, but
are they like crossings? Or are they like tens?
They're not even that clever. They're not even clever enough to come up with crossings. No, they're literally probably just going to be called X's, honestly.
Yeah.
And again, that's brilliant because I now all I want to do is break up with this app that I used to love, because it literally is no longer the app I used to love.
Yeah, you hold down the app and then there's a little X in the corner and you just hit that.
Exactly.
That's how you post an X.
Literally. So I mean, it's just been so sad to see. And honestly, the main reason why it's sad is because there isn't a good alternative yet. I mean, the tricky thing is that I think what we all want so much of is just to go back to the old Twitter, which again was not perfect, but for what it was a good thing. But of course, you can't just make a clone Twitter because now that's copyright infringement. And so you have to make it different, like what Threads is trying to do. But in making it different, you're totally missing out on what made Twitter so beautifully simple in the first place. Like, the thing about Threads is that it's just Instagram but now it's with text posts as well.
Yeah.
And that's not what I want. You know, if I want the Instagram experience, I'll open fucking Instagram. I don't need like some side Instagram in addition to the main Instagram. No, what I want is Twitter.
Just why make it a separate app for text posts?
Sure,
Instagram has already copied everything. You know, they already copied Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat
with the stories and the disappearing images.
Instagram, yeah.
And you know, they already kind of copied TikTok by having Reels.
Right.
And just if you're gonna continue copying other apps, then copy Twitter and just integrate it into Instagram rather than making it a new platform that uses your same account. So if you delete the Threads account, it deletes your Instagram account.
Exactly.
Just make it part of Instagram at that point.
Absolutely. And so that's the thing that's most sad about it, is that honestly, at this point, I really would just leave Twitter or X or whatever the fuck it's called now and just jump over to the competitor. Honestly, I would have done it already, but because there isn't one, it's like, well, yeah, I could just delete my Twitter account and just not think about it again. But let's be honest, I'm going to think about it again. And I'm still going to want something that can scratch that itch even slightly.
Part of it is you want to see the dumpster fire, too.
Well, yeah. No,
I think it's you can't look away.
Yeah, well, it's become a soap opera.
Cars are about to crash. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, that is true. It's the same reason why I tuned into the DeSantis thing, is because it's become a soap opera. Honestly, you want to see the train wreck. So that is true as well. You know.
I'm wondering if the future of Twitter or the future of X, is it continues to get worse and worse, and Elon Musk realizes that he's he's become an alchemist and turned a bar of gold into a shiny turd.
Exactly. Not even.
And then we'll try to sell it.
Yeah.
And then the original owners and shareholders of Twitter will buy it back, and then just roll everything back to how it was.
Yeah.
And then they've made a huge profit. Everyone comes back, and it's back to normal. I think that's kind of the best case scenario, and that would also be fucking hilarious to me.
But yeah, and that's the thing though, is that that would be something, certainly, and certainly the old Twitter board certainly got paid handsomely from the deal. I will say, and I've this is so weird to say, because to be sure, they were already wealthy people to start with, but I'm so glad that the rich people got a chance to fleece the world's richest man, and at least they got to profit off of him.
Yeah, I'm not happy about them getting richer, but Elon losing money.
But that's not really funny. Not even that. I mean, yes, I'm happy that they fleeced him, but the main thing is I'm happy that Elon has lost so much money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Elon lost a bunch of money, and that's
so if a few rich people profited at the expense of Elon, I'm okay with that, because at least Elon is suffering.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that with anybody who now comes in as a new buyer for X, I just don't know, who is the next person who now wants to step in, who has a few $1 billion.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the only people who could buy it would be the old Twitter users or the old Twitter owners.
Yeah,
because they have the potential to roll it back, and that would bring all the advertisers back, because they're these people actually know how to run this app.
Well, and that's the thing, is that
Whereas
even
anyone else would be buying a literal dumpster fire.
Well, that's the thing, is that even if I were a very, very deep-pocketed like venture capital firm, and I'm looking at and Elon says, you know what, I'm looking to sell this thing, who wants to buy? I would still think twice about buying it, because now all the damage has been done. Now all the work now falls on me to rebuild something from the ashes and see if I can't resurrect it in some way. See, the thing is that a big part of why Twitter worked the way it did originally was because it was a publicly traded company. I mean, you had average people, you had obviously huge institutional investors, but also average people who own shares in this company. And so when Elon bought it, he took it from a publicly traded company into a private company, where now he doesn't have to share anything, he doesn't have to say anything, he doesn't have to explain himself ever. He has no one to answer to but himself. The old Twitter board, they had people to answer to. They had banks to answer to and shareholders to answer to. Elon has no one to answer to. So for as bad as it looks now, we don't even know how bad it is on the inside, really. And if he ever is going to sell, then he is going to have to open up the books and actually show them how bad it's gotten. And I don't know what he's going to get for that. I mean, at that point, he's selling it for parts, is what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, trying to recover any kind of cost.
Exactly, because think about it: who is going to buy that and then want to take it public again? Who is going to want to buy shares in this in X? Nobody.
But I think also, like, his ego would prevent him from ever selling it.
No, yeah.
Because that would be admitting that he did a bad job with it.
Exactly.
Whereas instead, he's probably just going to be like, I got bored with Twitter. I'm just going to let it be and move on to my next thing.
And to be sure, he will get bored of it, like he's gotten bored of everything else. But as you said, he won't sell it because he'll have to sell at a loss. I don't see any way to get around the fact he will have to sell at a loss.
Oh,
and he's far too proud.
Yeah, if it ever sells, it would sell at a loss for sure.
Exactly, and he's far too proud for that. Because, as you said, he is a man-child, and he just seems pathologically incapable of admitting that he's actually failed, or that one of his ideas isn't actually that good. See, just like we were saying earlier, Elon Musk did not invent wireless purchases like he did, like with PayPal. He did not invent the electric car, as with Tesla. He certainly didn't invent.
He's not even a self-made man like he claims.
No,
I mean, he inherited tons of money from his daddy's emerald mine.
Absolutely, which, I mean, if you want to talk about the
history was also a product of apartheid, so it was literally on the backs of.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's a whole other thing. Is that the Musk family? There's some dark history there, and as you said, I mean, obviously, quite a bit of their fortune was made possible because of the apartheid regime. But yes, he didn't invent wireless purchases. He didn't invent electric cars. He didn't invent rockets that can re-land. He didn't invent fucking tunnels or boring machines.
Or subways.
Or subways.
He didn't even invent. Yeah, he didn't invent electric cars. Those have been around since the 90s.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, he didn't invent any of this stuff. But I will say, his ideas, such as the idea of a single lane tunnel that only Teslas can fit into, that's an Elon Musk idea. He didn't invent the tunnel, but that idea, that's an Elon Musk.
All of his ideas surround how to make things worse.
Yeah. Or how do I make this make more money for me is the other thing as well.
Yeah, how do I make it make more money for me, but also it'll fail and end up making me lose money.
Exactly, and endangering people's lives and safety.
Yeah, so, he was like, oh, I can turn Twitter profitable, tanks it.
Exactly.
Oh, I can make public transportation profitable, doesn't get any new contracts.
And that's my point.
I can make electric cars profitable, like, is being, overrun by other businesses.
Exactly, and that's my point. He didn't invent any of these things, but he does have ideas, and his ideas are almost exclusively very bad ones that end in disaster. And so, sadly, it seems like Twitter is also ending in disaster. And then we'll just have to see.
What does he do next?
Yeah, where does he spread his pestilent presence to next? I mean, after all, he's already done space, so where do you go from there? He'll probably want to conquer death itself.
Maybe he's gonna buy OceanGate. And he's I can make a better submersible than these. than these
Oh
tools.
God, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna put those Tesla batteries in it, and we're gonna see how that goes. But you
We're
know
gonna
what?
make a
Yeah, there's.
submersible Tesla.
But yeah, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. There's a bit of a fire sale on right now on submersible businesses. But
It's almost like billionaires aren't smart.
no, yeah, no. I mean,
Crazy.
absolutely. And of course we didn't even address what I showed you earlier, which is they installed a gigantic X on top of the former Twitter building,
Yeah.
what was once known as the Twitter building, and this thing is just making life hell for all the poor people who live in the apartment building across the street from it, because this thing is beaming and flashing constantly in the most obnoxious way,
Yeah,
and
it's like a rave light machine just
exactly
going off all
in
the
the
time.
middle of San Francisco. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
And
nightmare.
that's the thing that annoys me is that, the news segment you showed me, they were talking about how like you need permits for this kind of thing, and he didn't
Yes.
have those, so the city's gonna like make him take it down probably. Um, but like if you're wealthy enough, you don't need permits because you can just build the thing and then pay the fine for not
Yep,
having a permit.
absolutely.
And so it lets you skirt around the law in a very frustrating way that ordinary people can't do.
Yep, absolutely, without a shadow of
Um,
a doubt.
and I think that, that's one of my big frustrations with how government is run and how our laws are framed is that like fines aren't proportional when they should
Mhm.
be.
Yeah,
Because that's just an easy way for the government to bring in more money
yeah,
and also relieve burdens against poorer people.
yep,
Like instead of a $250 fine going to someone who, I don't know, maybe littered or something, like you could
yeah,
reduce that to like or for like a parking ticket.
yeah, yeah.
Because maybe they were like, just running into the store that, you know, couldn't afford the meter or had to run, they get a ticket,
Mhm.
$250. They can't eat for the next 2 nights or something.
Yeah,
But a rich person is just like, okay, it just costs $250 to park here.
right.
If you reduce the cost, so it's like, okay, it starts off as a $50 parking ticket, but if you make over X amount, now it's like $1,000 parking ticket.
Yep.
And if you make over $1 billion, it's a $250,000 parking ticket.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely.
Because, why the fuck not?
Yeah. No,
It's a
because
better
yeah,
incentive for you to not break the law. And if you
absolutely.
do, the government gets more money, which also means police officers would be targeting the wealthier people committing crimes and not the poor people committing crimes through
Yeah.
quotas. I don't
And
know.
let me tell you,
It's
I love that idea. That makes my socialist heart sing. But here's
yeah,
the reason. But here's the reason why it's not, or at least it's probably not workable, is because you're immediately going to get into a controversy of how do you then calculate people's wealth? Is it
yeah,
the amount of money that they have in their bank account right now, or is it the sum total of all of their assets? What if their assets are split across the value of a company they own, or what if it's split across if you have a married couple? Do you include, and it's a shared pool? I mean, how do you determine what's this person's pot of money versus this person's pot of
yeah. I
money?
mean, I guess
And
I
so,
guess my only rebuttal would be like just use it based on tax brackets,
right. Yeah.
um, and just make it proportional based on tax brackets.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Um, but that also one billionaire should be paying more taxes, and I think we need to close a lot of those loopholes. But also, like, when it comes to fines for breaking laws, we should make corporate fines a lot larger too.
Yes, we should.
There was, I forget the name of the company, but it was like a large opiate manufacturer and distributor, um,
Mm.
that, you know, was fined for, I think, distributing more than they were legally allowed to at certain pharmacies, or I don't know what the exact issue was, but there was some kind of fine that they had to pay, and that just became
Mm.
the cost of doing business,
Definitely.
and it
Yeah.
was still profitable. And
Yeah.
that means it's an ineffective fine.
No,
So
absolutely.
again, if you raise that fine, the government gets more money. And if
Yeah.
you're like, oh, well, the company's lobbying us not to do it, we don't want to lose the money that they're giving us through lobbying, just
Mhm.
make it worth more than what they're lobbying.
Sure. No,
just,
absolutely.
just like make it that much more. Like
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think I know what you're referring to too. I'm forgetting the name of the but I know who you're talking about. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
so true. I mean, that is inexcusable when you have a company literally profiting off of pain and suffering and death, and the fines are a second thought. I mean, there is no serious financial penalty. It is unimaginable. Absolutely.
Or like for example, polluting. A lot of companies will pollute and then just pay the fine.
Absolutely.
Make it a larger fine.
Yeah, no, of course, the DuPont family, very much, very, very notorious, especially in New Jersey as well, with the Superfund sites. I mean, and they just got away with it for decades. They got away with it. It's just unimaginable how much of a afterthought it becomes if you're wealthy and well connected enough.
Yeah, if you can't run a business without paying workers,
yes,
and without or if you can't run a business without underpaying workers and without breaking the law, it's not a good business and it shouldn't exist.
Absolutely, I agree. Like I said,
that shouldn't be a controversial statement, but
like I said, your proposal makes my socialist heart sing.
You heard it first here. Observation Conversations is officially a socialist podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Come back next year when we go full communism.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't plan on going that far. I would consider myself more of a capital socialist or a socio-capitalist. I think the best way to run this system would be have like a universal basic income and just like a basis of socialist programs. And then if you want to build your wealth beyond that through capitalist means, sure, go ahead.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean,
but as long as like people can live well and not die of homelessness or starvation, yeah,
absolutely. Democratic socialism. I mean that's what I've based so much of my own beliefs on, is what Bernie Sanders has been espousing for years now. I mean, I think again,
liberal.
We're getting far off topic, but
yeah.
But when we talk about these things, at least for me, and I think perhaps for you too, that's very much the standpoint that I'm coming at it from.
Yeah, my whole life philosophy has always just been like, don't be an asshole.
Of course, yeah.
And that applies to laws too. And it's like, if enforcing this law makes you kind of an asshole towards someone or a group of people, it's a bad law.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, the downfall of Twitter, it has been something to behold, certainly. And we're back.
That was quick. Wow.
Yeah.
That was the quick, and we're back.
Absolutely, and we are back. And as you can see, this is random. This is, what did we call it?
It was rapid fire random.
Rapid fire
random item number 2, I guess.
Random item number 2, yes.
It's a compilation episode. I mean, that's really what it is.
Absolutely, and here we have something of, you might even say, is a reintroduction or resurrection even of observation reactions. Of course, this trailer's been out for a few weeks now, so
and we've both also already seen it, but
yes, but we're reacting to it again because I think it could be fertile ground for conversation. And so, without further ado, shall we take a look at this?
Let's
Hi, this is Mike. I was just calling to see if that job that you offered was still available.
Yes. The security guard.
I will take anything.
This place was huge in the 80s with the kids.
So we're getting all the little lore drops.
The owner's just not ready to let it go yet.
I will work and you will sleep.
I understand.
Nice to meet you, Mike. My name is Phone Guy.
Come here, Ed.
I do like the music. The music is very cool.
Yeah.
All you have
I like the looks of it.
Just keep your eyes on
the actual establishment. But I'm just
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's, where fantasy and fun come to life.
To choose his role.
Okay.
Because I know, all I see is like PETA from Hunger Games working at Freddy Fazbear's.
New security guard.
Can I help you, officer?
Which, that's a great pitch, by the way. Let's make that movie happen.
Them.
kids went missing. The police searched Freddy's top to bottom.
Hello?
They never found them. That's why the place shut down.
There are ghost children possessing giant robots. Thanks for the heads up.
Technically, they're animatronics.
What do they want?
They want to make her like them.
Pappy! Tell me how to stop them.
It's too late.
Bobby, go!
Where to? Why do I always get the weirdos?
Oh man. Okay, so
I don't know.
So I should explain, this was something that I proposed. It's top of mind for me because just a few days ago I was seeing a movie in a theater, the new Mission Impossible, by the way. Fantastic, highly recommend it. But of course we were getting a bunch of trailers before the movie began, and this was one of them. And even though this trailer had been out for a while, I hadn't seen it until I was seeing it on the big screen. And I have to confess, I knew they were doing a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I was very intrigued to see what it would look like. And I have to confess, seeing the trailer, I actually think it looks good. I think that this looks like a best case scenario for a Five Nights at Freddy's major motion picture. And I'll get into why, and we'll go back through the trailer. But what did you think about it?
I like the visuals of it. I like the aesthetic. It seems like it's going to be a very colorful movie.
Yes.
Which I really enjoy. I don't know if it's going to be actually scary.
That's a very fair request. That's a very.
I think that's coming from, because this Blumhouse, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, for Blumhouse. Their tendency is, at least from what I've seen, is to sacrifice good storytelling for jump scares. Which is really unfortunate in this case, because jump scares are not what makes the Five Nights at Freddy's games so enjoyable. It's what makes them scary, but what makes them so beloved is the lore behind it. Yes. And there is a rich story to it. I mean, the idea that, in the 80s or the 90s or wherever, there was a serial killer that went around and killed a bunch of children.
Yes.
And now they haunt these animatronics.
Yeah.
That's a creative idea. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and by the way, folks, for folks who are not super familiar with this world or this story, that is the super Cliff's Notes version of it.
Very, very
it's been almost a decade now of this lore being built on over the course of various games, and it's this massive sprawling story now. But yes, that is the basic principle of it.
Yeah, and there are elements in here that make me think, oh, they're gonna actually focus on the story side, and that's gonna be cool. There's this shot of kind of these kids in the woods. It seems like these are gonna be the spirits of the kids.
Yes.
And so, maybe we're exploring what happened to them and that tragedy. Maybe it's more of a detective thing, uncovering who actually killed them or how did it happen. That would be cool. But then you end with this shot where he's the door that's just a push door that is somehow locked, and he's screaming. I was okay, well, that's kind of uninspired. That's really dull. Yeah. And the animatronics, they look really good. There's a better shot, but a lot of I really like the look of the animatronics. like here, and it's like you know, it feels kind of B horror because you have like, you know, this kind of felt and like handcrafted. You know, it doesn't necessarily feel. It feels more like a puppet than an animatronic.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like if you lean into that aesthetic, you know, that's cool, but it's not scary. And there's like a very specific place where they try to make it seem scary.
Just keep your eyes on the monitor.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's, where fantasy and fun come to life.
Okay.
You must be new security guards.
Can I help you, officer?
Have you met them yet?
Met who?
Them.
Yeah, it's like they look really good, but then you have like this is cool.
In the 80s, kids went missing. The police searched Freddy's top to bottom.
Hello?
They never found them. That's why the place shut down.
There are
Also,
ghost
can we pause
possessing
here just for a second? Also, it's so funny that you said that you can't get the thought of PETA from Hunger Games out of your head, because doesn't that, if you go back a couple scenes, doesn't that lady that he's talking to, I think that's the cop from earlier. Yeah, not that far back, just maybe 15 seconds or so. Her. Yeah. Doesn't she look so much like Jennifer Lawrence as well? And so it's like you've got to. Yeah, I mean,
if anything, she looks like Katniss's younger sister.
Oh yeah, maybe, but yeah, just one more Hunger Games connection there as well.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just so funny to me, the idea of Katniss and PETA in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. That's pretty cool. But yeah, no, I think I should just as we continue looking at this, I should just offer a disclaimer as to where I'm coming from with this.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this series and about this franchise briefly here and there, over over time as we've made this show. And I don't mind admitting I am a fan of this series and of these games. And actually, yeah, so it is the cop. So it's in my mind now, I can't stop thinking about Katniss and PETA.
Yeah, it's weird too, because like she seems like she's a reference to the security guard in the newest game, Security Breach.
Yeah, Vanessa. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, you know, there's a whole other story component there.
Yes.
But then it doesn't seem like they're actually addressing it.
But yeah, of course, that's on the total opposite side of the timeline, and so it's like there's no way these two people could be in the same place at the same time. But yeah, I am a fan of this series. I've been a fan since the very first game came out in 2014, and of course, you know, over the years as it's gotten bigger and as it's gotten more popular, it's been, you know, it's drifted in and out of cringiness, you know, being more cringy, less cringy. But for the most part, I really have enjoyed following it, and I've enjoyed following the lore of it very much as it's been expanded and unfolded by various people. I should shout out the Game Theorist specifically. They do a phenomenal job. They've done like a million videos breaking down the lore.
That's the only reason I know all the lore. I've like, I don't think I've actually played a single game. Maybe I played the first one, but it's like I'm only familiar with the franchise because of the Game Theorists.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do a fantastic job, and they've done so many videos breaking down the lore and the story of these games. And so that's been a big part of the experience for me as well. But what I love so much about them and why I really was so fascinated by that first game when it came out was because for a horror game, it's so beautifully simple. You know, we've had so many of these big horror series like Resident Evil or Silent Hill where they just get bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where they're just first-person shooter games and all the tension is gone. what's so great about that first Five Nights at Freddy's game is how beautifully simple it is. You are in a room. Your ass is glued to a chair. You cannot move. You can only look left and look right. The only defense between you and the monsters is doors that run out of power. The fucking doors run out of power. And so you have to resource manage. You have to watch the monsters. And, you have to do all this stuff. And you are just stuck. That's all you can do. You are totally powerless otherwise. And that is such a brilliantly simple way to create a very effective, tense atmosphere and create really effective scares, because all you can do is wait for it. When you know that you're out of luck and the animatronics are right outside the door, all you can do is sit and wait for them to get your ass. And that's it. You can't run. You can't do anything. You can't shoot at them. That's it. And so that's what made that first game so special.
And that's why it doesn't seem like it'll work in movie form. To me, is because you can't translate that experience of waiting for someone to get you into a movie, because then you're waiting for something to get someone else.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why it was always such a big question. Can you make an actually satisfying Five Nights at Freddy's movie? How can you adapt this and have it be true to the spirit of what made these games so special in the first place? And of course, I never expected them to try to do a direct adaptation of the early games, because that's too simple. That's great for a game and gameplay. It's never that'll never work as a movie. I mean, you have to have, as you said, a main character that you empathize with and that you care about and that you want to see survive. You have to give him a backstory. You have to give him some agency. He can't just be helpless. He has to be able to take an active role in not dying and be someone that we care about and are invested in. And so there was a very big question of, can you even make a satisfying movie version of this? And there have been other knockoff versions that we've gotten in the past few years, including that awful Nick Cage movie, Willy's Wonderland, which was very clearly inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's, but it was just terrible. Yeah. But this is the first official licensed Five Nights at Freddy's movie, as you said, produced by Blumhouse, one of the biggest juggernauts in horror right now in the horror world, and actually written by Scott Cawthon, the creator of the original games. And so this is a very big deal for what has become one of the biggest names in the horror world, video games or otherwise, in the past decade. And what gave me a lot of confidence in it initially was the fact that Scott Cawthon was an active part of development and was actually writing it. And you mentioned that the animatronics look like puppets. That's intentional, because I don't know if you've heard about this, but Jim Henson's Creature Shop, the same guy who did the Muppets and that whole legendary outfit, is doing the animatronics for this and is doing the puppets for this.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, and that's why they look so good, is because Jim Henson is doing them.
Yeah.
And so those two reasons are why I was interested in this. And then I saw the trailer, and honestly, I was very happy with how it seemed like it had all come together. You are getting those references to and those callbacks to the games. They're getting the names right. They're getting the backstory right. They got the music right. Everything looks good. And also they are paying attention to the story of the original games. But clearly they're also doing their own thing on top of that and telling a new story on top of that. And I think that's the way to go. Don't try to copy the first games. Keep the spirit true, get the details right as much as possible, but then tell a new story in this world. Yeah, and that's what I got from this.
And that's what it comes down to, is what's going to make this movie good or not, is how much is focused on the storytelling versus how much is focused on going for a cheap scare.
Exactly.
And there's three shots specifically that kind of emblemize this for me. One is that happens very quick. Right past it. That where you have the hand of a child actually reaching out, and you can see the ghost.
Yes.
And it's okay, we're going to be interacting with the spirits and kind of uncovering their story. That gives me hope.
Absolutely.
That's a great thing.
Yeah, very creative.
But that is immediately followed with this shot.
Yeah, and also, if I can just say this quickly, that's also exactly what we wanted out of this movie, because we want to see things in the movie that we never could get in the games, things that you couldn't portray effectively in the games. We want this to show us what we could never get out of that as well. So I just wanted to say that as well.
Yeah, but this is immediately followed by this one, which, you know, is supposed to be the robotic foot of the animatronic stomping on the ground in a scary way, and it's like, oh, it's coming to life.
Yeah.
This looks like silver painted plaster.
Yeah.
And that's when I say they look like puppets. You know, the outside, that's great. I love the felt exterior. I love the look and the color of them.
Yeah.
But if you can't make the robot interior scary, which is like what the actual scary thing is, which is, you know, this, I mean, it's possessed by a child, which is part of it, but it's, you know, the original story is that these animatronics have this built-in security feature to detect intruders and eliminate threats. And so, like, having robots stop at nothing to come after you is terrifying. If the robots look like they're made of cardboard, it's not as scary, at least to me.
And I think we really have to see them in motion in order to understand what we're dealing with here, because that's going to be the true test for me. If they don't look good in motion, then we're going to have a problem. But certainly when they're just standing there, and we've gotten a few shots of that as well, I think they look great when they're either standing or only moving, you know, side to side. But we now have to see, what does it look like when they're running? What does it look like when they're attacking? I think that's going to be the true test.
Yeah, and this aesthetic, you know, is fine if you lean into like the B horror aesthetic.
Yeah.
But then make it not about the horror and about the storytelling.
Yeah.
And the final shot of the trailer, which gives me so much hope, is her with, I assume this is Golden Freddy.
Yeah.
Or like here they're like walking together. So she's the daughter of the security guard, and it's clear that she's befriended this spirit, animatronic spirit,
effectively,
which to me tells me, okay, they are going to be focusing on the story of the kids who are possessed and trying to free their souls, making it more of a, not even like thriller, maybe more of like a drama or like a tragedy almost, mixed with comedy, rather than going for a bunch of jump scares.
Yeah.
So if they lean into this, it'll be good. But knowing Blumhouse, I'm not the most confident, personally.
Well, no, and I definitely think that humor can be an asset, but I don't want it to get too light either, and I don't want to see like a bunch of like Marvel quips in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Definitely, but yeah, no, I think for me the thing to your point earlier, the thing that gives me so much hope for this and why I was so happy seeing this trailer for the first time was because I feel like at least they are using the opportunity of making a movie to show us stuff that, again, we couldn't ever see in the games, or, you know, we couldn't portray in the same way in the games. I think that the fact that they're keeping stuff like the Springtrap suit and all of the Michael Afton stuff and the ghost kids and the ghost arm coming out of the animatronic, like, all of that's great.
Yeah.
You know, again, the fact that they're getting, again, the night shift right, and you know, everything looks like how you imagine it would have looked like, you know, if we could have gotten a fully rendered like image of the interior
set. The set amazing.
The set is fantastic. Yeah, and you know, in the security office, he's got all the screens of all the different security cameras. Like, all of that is perfect. And so I really appreciate them, again, using this opportunity to not just emulate the games and adapt the games, but show us stuff that the games never could. And again, just getting the details right is so important. And I think the animatronics look good. Again, we'll have to see them in motion, but I think they look good. The location looks amazing. Again, the set dressing is spot on. The music is great. They got that perfect. And so I have faith that they are paying attention to the details and they are taking the backstory seriously and the lore seriously. Again, I don't even want it to go super deep into all of the lore of the games. I just want you to get the basic stuff right. Like, get the Ghost Kids right, get the Springtrap suit right, get Michael Afton right, get the Night Guard right, the security office right, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're doing that. And then we can get into more of the crazy stuff in the lore in, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 3. But yeah, for what this is perfect. Or it looks great so far. And I think great trailer overall. Honestly, I don't tend to see a lot of horrors in theaters, but I would absolutely go out to see this. In fact, I would go so far as to say I am excited for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. My curiosity is piqued. And yeah,
I think I'm gonna have to take your recommendation after you've seen it. But I think that's also because I have like kind of a bias towards Blumhouse too.
Sure, yeah, and the good news is it looks like it's going to be in theaters and it's going to be streaming on Peacock day and date. So yeah, I guess you could just watch it at home as well.
Yeah, but I also don't pay for Peacock, so.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I'll just say this: I don't either, but it's never stopped me before. I'll just say that.
Wink and a nod to our
audience.
There you
go. Yeah. But
enjoy Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I love a good pirate game. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Pirates of the Caribbean, great pirate movie.
Absolutely.
Pirate TV shows.
But yeah, this looks good. I am cautiously optimistic, and very much looking forward to seeing what the final product is. But yeah, do you want to just briefly bring back our old observation reaction scale? I'm giving this trailer an 8 out of 10. Very good.
6 out of 10 feels way too low. I'll probably go 7 out of 10. Again, biased because I don't like the way Blumhouse does horror, but aesthetically, beautiful.
Definitely.
So, yeah, 7 out of 10 for me.
All right. Well, then, in that case, I guess should we shift on to our last rapid fire randomness of the day?
Yeah, I believe we will. So we'll be right back. And we're back. We're going to play a quick round of, what is this, Jago? This is your Jackbox game?
Bomb Corp from the Jackbox Party Pack 2. And do you think we should just tell the good people the truth? We actually already played this for a little bit. And it seems like our recording got messed up. So we're going to replay it for a little bit again, just so you can still get that experience. But basically, you didn't see this, but we went on an amazing run just now.
We were Let's Players. We were officially Let's Players.
I mean, honestly, it was fantastic.
Now our dreams are shattered.
In classic Let's Play fashion, we lost the footage.
Our dreams have died, which once again connects to the through line of this episode, which is death, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I suspect this is a very common experience in the Let's Play community. You have this amazing run, this amazing session, and the footage gets corrupted or it gets lost in some way, and it's like, well, shit, that was so good what we just did. But we're gonna try it again, and just because it was so much fun, we had so much fun doing this. We want to give you a little taste of that at least.
Yeah, the room code is UNNS if you want to feel free to join us at home.
Yeah, we're streamers.
Travel back in time and.
Well, I feel like after everything we did, going back to day one is gonna be like cruising down Easy Street.
Yeah. You want to quickly explain how this works, even though you already did?
Yes, and so this is basically it's a great co-op game. It's one of the few true co-op games that you can do with 2 people in the Jackbox series, and it's all about defusing bombs. We're working at a bomb factory, defusing bombs, and if we don't communicate and we don't defuse the bomb in time, we will explode. A very painful way to go, in keeping with the theme of this episode. And so, yeah, that's what this game is. You'll need to work together so that, as you'll see, cooperation and communication is key.
Okay, I have Don't Smash the Plant and Don't Smash the Computer.
And I have Don't Smash the Phone.
I think it's smash the picture every time.
Yeah, I guess so.
Working together, you smash that picture of Trevor's family. Oh, Trevor used to work at this desk, but he doesn't need that picture anymore because he died. I think this team is ready for some real work now. Here at Bomb Corp, we make lots of bombs, but we are very disorganized. Sometimes the bombs just start going off by themselves. We're not very good at making bombs that don't start going off by themselves. When that happens, the bomb's instruction manual will automatically appear on your devices, as well as buttons that let you cut wires. But be careful, the rules for how to defuse the bomb are spread across all of your devices. And all of you may not have the buttons to cut the wires, so you'll need to work together. Oh no. Here's one now. Defuse this bomb before time runs out, or it'll explode and kill us all.
Okay.
Cut all wires next to wire 3.
Do not cut red wires, even though the rule says that you should, and cut the 4th wire. There you go.
Easy peasy.
Great work on that bomb. Man, here's another bomb set to go off. Would you mind making sure this one doesn't blow up and
love this jazzy little theme.
If there is a red wire present, cut the 3rd wire.
If there is a green wire present, cut the 4th wire. There is. So
if there is a yellow wire present, cut the 1st wire.
All right, so 1 and 4.
Yep. They're freaking geniuses.
We are. We're so good at this, honestly.
Ooh, nice job. I think you've earned a break.
Man, it was so cool. There was a dog working in this office and everything.
Oh my god, yeah, we wish you could have been there to see that, folks. It was glorious. The dog was actually threatening everyone in the office's job security. It was great.
Yeah, we're not making this up, by the way.
This is
actually in the game.
This is something that you will see at some point on the show. Probably is us going through this whole campaign.
It sounds like a bit. It's not a bit.
No, yeah.
There's a dog in the office.
Yes.
It talks. It's a talking dog.
Do not cut the 3rd wire, even if it is white.
Cut the 2nd wire if it is green.
Cut all white wires. So don't cut 3. Cut 1 and 2. Or just 2. Cut the
3rd wire if it is green.
Cut the 2nd wire if it is red.
Cut the 1st wire if it is black. So just 2.
Just 2, yeah. That's me. Page 1, do not cut white wires, even if another rule says that you should.
Cut all wires next to wire 4. Cut the 4th wire.
Okay, so 5, 4, 3.
5, 4, 3.
I could kiss somebody right now. I'm so happy.
You guys don't know this, but Megan becomes a very major character later in the story.
Oh yeah, she's a big player.
And that's all there is to it, folks. Just keep talking and nobody explodes.
That's a different game.
that's a good name for a similar game, actually.
Yeah, that would be cool if it made a bomb defusal game.
Yeah. And so just to give the folks a taste, should we give them one more day?
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back. You made it through your first day, which is a big deal because the last guy died on his first day here. Poor Trevor. Anyway, now that you know the ropes, defuse this bomb before we all die.
All right, page 1. Do not cut wire 2, even if page 3 says that you should. And page 3 is supposed to say even instead of odd.
Page 3, cut all odd numbered wires. So that's even.
Right, okay, so, and do not cut 2, and do not cut 2. Even if page 3 that says that you should, so, yeah, you got it.
We're getting so good with these bombs, but unfortunately, I have a much more daunting task for you.
Filing.
You'll each receive a list of names on your device. Pressing the buttons one at a time, put the names in the correct order. Oh, and if you get something wrong, the filing cabinet will blow up. Yeah, I know, it sucks. Good luck.
All right, A to Z, I have R and I have P.
I have R and L.
Okay, so I guess I'm putting, okay, so, yeah, I get L first, and then I have RO.
I have RI. Fuck.
Oh, my P guy. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Hover bottom.
All right, I have T and A.
I have P and F.
Right, okay, so we want
A.
And we're doing A to Z, so yeah, A first.
F.
And then you have who else?
P.
P, and I have T, so yeah, T should be last.
You know how to spell.
Yeah.
We're smart boys.
We definitely don't run through our heads every time we play this game.
Yeah.
What about you, Linda? Leave me alone. Oh, that's so what a pelican would say.
Sorry about that filing. We have digital versions of all this stuff anyway. Oh, I have a much easier task for you. Defusing these 3 bombs before they kill everyone in the office.
Page 1. Cut wire 1 if it is green. It is not.
Page 2, cut all wires adjacent to wire 2. And page 3, wires need to be cut from right to left. So 3 and 1. There we go.
Hell yeah. Cut white wires if the bomb's model ends in with a letter. Otherwise, do not cut white wires.
Page 2, cut the 3rd wire, and page 3, cut black wires if the bomb's model ends with a number. Otherwise, do not cut black wires. It does end with a number, so cut black wires and cut the 3rd wire. Page 1, if the bomb was made in 1997, it was treat white wires as blue.
Page 2, cut all green wires. Page 3, cut all white wires.
And page 4, if the bomb was made in 1983, it was not, so we can disregard that. So treat white wires as blue. So we've got blue number 1, blue number 2, and then...
The 3 and 4.
Yeah. There we go.
Work distracts me from my fear of dying.
Which is a constant fear around here.
I'm
Yeah.
Megan. Greg said to defuse this
Oh,
bomb.
Megan's back.
It might be more complicated than you're used to. Don't screw up. I have dinner plans tonight.
All
Okay,
right.
page 1. Cut green wires only if they are the first wire. Do not cut any other green wires, even if it contradicts other rules.
Page 2, cut all black wires.
Page 3,
Yeah.
do not cut the 4th wire, even if it's black.
Page 4, cut the 3rd wire. All right, so 3.
Yeah, I think it's just 3.
Yeah, just 3. Yeah, just 3.
Easy.
I wore the perfect outfit for this.
Oh, I thought you would have blown up by now. I guess I can take down that ad for more interns. See you tomorrow.
All right. There you have it. Now, folks, if you can believe it, we actually went on a run through day 7 that you didn't see because our recording failed. Yeah, that
We're
is,
like masters at this game.
we really are.
I
And
mean,
you
we
will
died
see,
several times, but like.
well, yeah, well, but they'll
It's
never
the theme
see
of the episode, so
yeah,
you know.
exactly. Exactly. You know, Twitter is dead. Dead kids and animatronics. Our recording died. You know, it's all part of it.
Very emblematic. Yeah.
Absolutely, a little bit too on theme even. But yes,
And
you
guess
will see
what,
more of
subscribers? You'll die too someday.
this. Yes, indeed. But yes, you will see more of this. We will one day show you the rest of the days, and hopefully you will see that because our recording won't fail.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come back to this game at some point.
Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And we were so good at it. We even surprised ourselves with how good we were at it. So you'll definitely see more of this. Yes, well, you know what? The theme of the show was rapid fire randomness, and I feel like the chaos that we experienced over the course of recording this is just so perfect for that theme. And so, yeah, do you have any chaotic thoughts you want to wrap us up on?
Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you may.
Yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate any and all feedback and interaction.
Absolutely.
And if you made it this far, thank you for listening.
Absolutely. Yeah, and can I also just say, as a personal thank you to our subscribers, thank you all so much for sticking with us and coming back after our long hiatus. I saw that, we've been getting some decent views on our more recent uploads. I know the Black Mirror episode is doing very well. So thank you all so much for continuing to support us, continuing to watch. We so appreciate it, and we so love making stuff for you. So thank you. And we will speak with you again very soon with something else.
Who knows?
I mean, at this point, it truly could be anything.
If we didn't have a plan for this episode, do you think we have a plan for the next one, really?
Yes, well, it's true. And so who knows what'll be next week, but I will say, before the summer is out, we have a very exciting special planned that we cannot wait to bring to you. The event of the summer, you might even say. So stay tuned for that. All right, thank you all so much. We'll speak with you again very soon. Goodbye.